I'm recording the show. The recording gonna start. We promise to start on time. Okay, here's Shimi. Shimi also join us. Where's Shimi? Shimi,
How's
you
it,
with
Rav?
us?
Yeah, Rav, how's it? I'm with you.
Okay.
I'm with
Are
you.
you ready? Okay,
I'm ready.
everyone, can we start? Good. So, Rabotai, first of all, I would like to take the opportunity and to dedicate that shi'ur to the speedy recovery of Reuven ben Alia, that Shimi's father, that he's in intensive care, and please God, those words of Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will have mercy and will recover him speedily. Number one. Number two, also to take that opportunity that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will send speedy recover to all the Jewish over the world, that wherever they are suffering from whatever, if they're suffering from the virus, if they're suffering from any sickness.
Amen.
So Be'ezrat Hashem, El Na Refan Allah.
Amen.
Okay, so the subject of the Seur is prophecy of Micha, the prophecy of Prophet Micha. And the prophecy Micha wrote in the final chapter, in chapter 7, in verse 13, he said like this. I'm going to read in Hebrew, and Shimi going to read it in English. והייתה הארץ לשממה על יושביה מפרי מעלליהם. Shimi? Shimi, please read.
No, Shimi.
No, Shimon? I think that Shimon stuck.
I think the signal's stuck, Rav. Which number is it on?
Can you
Okay,
hear
I
me?
don't see
he's
it
there.
here, Rav.
Can you hear me?
I don't see
Okay,
it.
Shimi. Okay,
And
Shimi,
your-
please read it.
And your land shall become a desolation because of those who dwell in it, as the fruit of their misdeeds.
Okay, I'm going to bring
I
a
haven't
very... Sorry, Mark. Say again. I missed you
Sorry,
for a second.
that page never came out for me. I only got 2 pages.
No problem. Shimi, while
Okay, doesn't
I'm...
matter. Carry on.
Shimi, will you
Carry
send
on with
Mark
the-
all the necessary detail, please, huh?
Sure. Should I put it up on the screen?
Yeah, put it on the screen. That will be better. Exactly. Put it on the screen. That will be the best. So we'll go step by steps, so everyone can see it.
Okay.
Is everyone can see it? Hello, Linda. How are you? Thank you for joining us. It's very nice for you to join us. So we're starting the shiur now. Shimi, just put the verse on the screen so everyone can see it. Okay, so Rabotai, we're gonna read the prophecy of the prophet Micha, and Micha saying like this. In chapter 7, verse 13, the prophet Micha is speaking about a very interesting thing. And as Shimon read, let's see what the prophet said. I'm going to bring the commentary of the Malbin. I don't know how many of you heard about the Malbin. The Malbin's name was Rabbi Meir Libush ben Yehiel Michal Weiser. He born in Ukraine 301 years ago. And he wrote commentary about the prophecy on the prophet of Yehezkel. And here I'm going to bring his commentary on a prophet of the prophet Micha. And he said like this. He took the word, the earth. What it means, the earth? He said like this. Ratzeh lomar kadur haaretz kulo. That means, say the Malbin, what the prophet's speaking about, it's the entire earth. What it means, the entire earth? That means, if we look meticulously, what he trying to tell us, that the entire world gonna be in desolate. That means that in the time the Mashiach come, the world not gonna be destroyed. Not like many people that wanted to say that the world gonna be destroyed. The world gonna take 3 seconds for the world to get destroyed. As we look, the world exists, but the world gonna be in desolation. And as we see now, the entire world in desolation. There is no flying. The airports are almost not moving. There is no traveling. the streets are empty of human beings, business in stop and stand still, the entire world now in desolation. And all of that explained because our bad deeds. So we have to understand what the prophets say, that before the Mashiach come, will be a time that the world gonna go to complete standstill. That means no flying, no business, no people on the street, no restaurant, basically desolation. So far, that's what the Malbim explained on verse 13. Let's go to verse 14, and let's see what the prophets say on verse 14. Everyone can see it if you go to the page. Shimi put it on the front, and you can look at verse 14. I'm going to read it in Hebrew. So here, the prophet asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Re'eh amcha v'shiftecha. Shimi, please.
O shepherd your people with your staff, your very own flock.
Okay, if that makes sense what the prophet said, I'm going to explain what the prophet said. The Malbim say that the prophet asked from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please HaKadosh Baruch Hu, be our shepherd. Please, you're going to lead us. You're going to teach us. Be our teacher and lead us on the right way. Because we know that if HaKadosh Baruch Hu not going to be our shepherd and he's not going to lead us, where it's going to lead us in the end, Has v'shalom. That means that if we ourselves not going to take ourselves, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu not going to put us underneath his leadership, it's going to lead us only to one way. I don't want to mention it. All of you understand where it's going to lead us. Let's move on to verse 15. And in verse 15, that's the final prophecy that I would like to speak about. Look what it says in verse 15. כימי צאתך מארץ מצרים הראינו נפלאות. בכבוד, שמעון.
I will show him wondrous deeds, as in the days when you sallied forth from the land of Egypt.
Okay, here HaKadosh Baruch Hu answer the prophet, and he promised him that he will make a miracle to Bnei Israel, the same like he done in the first redemption. But we have to understand, what does it mean? That means HaKadosh Baruch Hu telling the prophet the same miracle that I done to the Jewish people when I redeemed them. When I redeemed them from Egypt, I'll do those 10 miracles that I done for Bnei Israel. But many of the Mefarshim ask this question. And the question that they ask, why it say Har'enu? It should say Ar'eka. Why Har'enu with Nun? Nun stands in the Gematria 50. So one of the ideas that the Mefarshim bring... Yes?
Rob, can I just recommend that everyone mutes their microphone unless they have a question?
Okay, please mute everyone. Can you do that?
How do you do that?
Can everyone mute himself?
I think only you can do it, on each person.
Okay, I'm going to look here. I'm going to look.
Everyone can just mute themselves otherwise. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to look mute. Shimon? Did I mute everyone?
No.
No. Mute myself. Share context. No.
Right. Bottom left-hand corner. That's bottom left-hand corner. I think you have to mute yourself.
Okay. Bottom left-hand corner. Okay, everyone, let's continue. Never mind. So everyone, just if you can mute yourself or keep the noise down, we can continue. So the prophet promised, Kadosh Baruch Hu promised the prophet that when I'm gonna finally redeem the Jewish people, the same miracle that I done to Bnei Israel, I will do on a final redemption. The 10 plagues, everything that happened in a final redemption will happen now. But Hazal asking, why is it say Ar'enu? It should say Ar'eka, I should show you. No, it's in plural. It's come to tell us that from that it's a nun, and the gematria of the letters nun is 50, is to teach us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will do 50 times more miracle than he done to the Jewish people when he redeemed them from Egypt, and a final redemption, he'll do 50 times more miracle. So far we understand what's happening in that prophecy. That means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised the prophet that the final redemption will be 50 times more miracle than it happened on the first redemption. Now, Rabotai, we send different of pictures on a video. Shimon, I don't mind if you can put them. Would you mind putting those pictures, Shimon?
Yeah, sure.
Can you put those pictures? So everyone, let's start with Malaysia and Malawi.
Okay.
Those pictures of the Caspian Sea, Malawi, and Indonesia.
1 second.
While Shimon putting it on, I will explain what's happening. It was certain report all over the world that what you're seeing now, the first pictures that Shimon put, that's the Caspian Sea. There is a report that in the south of Kazakhstan, it's by the Caspian Sea and the city of Tao. It's been reported that suddenly they see that the sea his color turned to red and blacks. Look at that picture that we sent. If you look carefully, there is another picture of rivers. Shimon, will you put the rivers, please?
Yeah, I'm putting it on.
Okay. Hello, Liron. Hello, Stevie. Wish you a long life, Steve. Okay, that's still the picture of the sea. The sea in the Caspian Sea. These different pictures.
I think it's like blood. Looks like blood.
Stand down. The dragon touched you in the rock. Release.
Shimi, are you with me?
I'm with you, Rob. I'm with you.
Okay, would you mind putting the... Hello, Yaakov, I didn't see you. Bruchim habayim. Okay, so now Shimi putting for us the next photos. The next photos is, okay, that's the picture. If you look carefully, it's been reporting that in Malawi, in Indonesia, in Malawi, there is a place that there is a river that crosses the Malawi. It's called the Dazaza. That river being completely painted by red, as you can see. What happened? A member of the village gone to do her washing, to do a laundry on the village, and for her surprise, she saw that the entire river been turned to red. The same thing happened in Malaysia. In Malaysia, the same thing occurred in a city of Guinea. There is a small river that also suddenly turned to red. Many people that thought that was stood stand, didn't understand what's happened. Now, as I mentioned before, Rabotai, I'm not a prophet, but let's look at those things that happen in the world at the moment, and I leave it for you to decide, are we at the beginning of the redemption or not? Let's move on. In Iran, beside the plagues that we have at the moment, that the disease that we have, look at that picture carefully, and if you can even bring it up, you will understand. In Iran at the moment, been reported that they have the plague of locusts. And after the spraying the pesticides, they found that the dead locusts turned to a thickness of 15 centimeter, 15 centimeter off the ground. Isn't that what happened in a plague of locusts just before the entire locusts disappear. You remember that the Egyptian took the locusts, tried to pickle them, we explain in a show. Isn't that what's happening at the moment in the world? The other plagues that we know, it's the virus that we have at the moment in the world. And that virus killed over tens of thousands all over the world. The same thing, we have another plague. The plague that we're having at the moment all over in certain places of the world is the wild beast. In the first picture that you see that called the puma. Puma is a land mountain. That kind of an animal being found on Colorado, on the street of Colorado, starting to take the street of Colorado. The next photos that's gonna be, that Shimon gonna post, we're gonna see another picture of animal that's starting to take the street. That's in Japan. In Japan, we see that because the shutdown, the deers starting to take over the street of Japan. The next picture that we're gonna see is the picture in Italy, that a wild hog taking over the street of Italy, what's never been happened before, never been seen before. Watch that, a hog in the middle of street of Italy. Isn't that the beginning or one of the 4 plagues that happened in Egypt? So as I mentioned before about I'm not a prophet and I'm not the son of a prophet, but those things that's happening today in the world.
Rob, can you stop 1 second?
No.
Guys, someone's talking. Liron, I think it's you. We can't hear the Rob.
Liron
Sorry.
talking. I think that.
Someone's talking in the background, Rob.
Okay. Liron is muted. Liron is mute. Liron is not talking. I don't know who's talking, but
Liron's name is coming up on my screen. That's why I think it was him.
No, it wasn't him. Anyway, so we just ask everyone not to talk. So Rabotai, you look now from all of what's happening now. If you look carefully what's happening in the world, it's very, very strange. We see 4 plagues similar to the 4 plagues that happen in Makat and the plagues that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought on Egypt. We see a very difficult plagues that we have now, that the entire world in isolation. The Jewish people been commanded on the 10th of Nisan not to leave the house, to take a lamb and to tie it to their bed. What it means to tie it to their bed? HaKadosh Baruch Hu told them, take the lamb and tie it next to your bed and don't leave the house until the 14th. And we also at home, we can't leave the house, we can't daven in a minyan, we can't do anything. We are in isolation. Isn't that the beginning of the redemption? Maybe. I'll leave it to each one of you to decide. As I mentioned, I'm not a prophet. But the question that we have to ask ourselves, and with that I'm going to conclude the show, and that's the most important. What is HaKadosh Baruch Hu want from us in those difficult times? That we are in isolation. We're sitting each one in his house, cannot daven in minyan, cannot be in shul, listening to shiurim, reading the Torah together. What HaKadosh Baruch Hu want from us? So I think that the best answer is, it's from what Shlomo HaMelech says. Shlomo HaMelech says something very interesting in a book of Mishle, in chapter 14 and verse 5. Lev yodea marat nafsho. Shimi, will you read that in English?
Sure. Let me just put it up on the page.
Okay.
Sorry, Rob. I'm just putting it up on the page. Is it this? Yes. The heart alone knows its bitterness, and no outsider can share in its joy.
Okay. So here, the prophet, the king Solomon, that was the smartest man, tell us something very important. The only thing that a person know, everyone know what he have to work on. He know where is he weak. He know where is his weakness. He know what he have to change. Everyone know what we have to work. But I think that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us, number one, to study more Torah, to do more mitzvot. That's very important. But more than that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu asks from us to do good deeds. And one of very important mitzvah, and not less, is the unity amongst the Jewish people. And that's very important, Rabotai. If we take all of those four things and we work on them, number one is mitzvot, studying Torah, doing chesed, and number four, the unity, and that's not less important than any one of the other mitzvot. If we work on our unity, I think that we'll see Mashiach very soon. But we have to understand, Chazal tell us that the king was a king Ahav. Ahav Arasha, used to worship idols. And when his army used to go to the war, none of his soldiers died. And many of the Mefarshim ask, how come? He was idol worshiper. The Mefarshim explain, very simple. You know why? Because they live in unity. Was no jealousy. Unity means no jealousy. I'm not better than you and I'm not less than you. Maybe you have a different opinion, but it doesn't mean that you're not good. That's the most important, that if we all live in unity, if we live in peace together, although that we don't have to agree with someone else's idea, but doesn't mean that we have to live in separation, faribo, what we call it in simple English. So I would like to end with what Hazal telling us in the Gemara Masechet Rosh Hashanah in page 11, folio 2. Hazal tell us like this: Benisan nig'alu, Benisan atidim li'gael. That means Hazal tell us in the Gemara in Masechet Rosh Hashanah 11, folio 2. In the month of Nisan, HaKadosh Baruch Hu redeemed the Jewish people from Egypt, as you all know. And in the month of Nisan, HaKadosh Baruch Hu can redeem the Jewish people from Egypt. It's come to tell us that if each one of us will work on those deeds and take things seriously, study more Torah, daven more with kavana, doing more mitzvot, live in unity one with each other, please God, we'll see Mashiach Tzidkenu speedily this year in Pesach. I would give now some time for questions.
Rob?
Yes. Who's speaking? I just want to go. Adrian, yes. The Vilna Gaon.
The Vilna Gaon said there'll be a war, and it'll take 12 minutes. How does that run in tandem with what we've just said now?
Okay, so there's different opinions, as I mentioned. The Vilna Gaon said that going to be a war. According to some of the Mefarshim, the war of Gog and Magog, the war of Armageddon is already ended up. The word of Gog and Magog, it's end. And people ask when it was. Some people say it was on a Holocaust. Some people say it was during the Mifza, the 6-day war, when the entire Muslim nation was together against the Jews, and some of the European, if not all the European country, was against the Jewish people. If you remember, France promised us that she's going to support us with ammunition, airplane, and etc. And the goal didn't keep into his promise. So according to Arav Ben Zion Abba Shaul, he said that the word of Armageddon was already in a 6-day war. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes, I hear you.
So that the entire people surround the Jewish people and try to destroy the Jewish people.
But Rob, the Vilna Gaon Dafka said it'll be a 12-minute war. The Vilna Gaon was in the 1700s. He could never have known about a 12-minute war. In those days, wow. I don't even know if there were guns.
How can you say that he would never know? Because if the Vilna Gaon knew that it's going to be a war and it's going to take 12 minutes, he obviously knew. Maybe it was the Second World War. During the Second World War, what happened when the half of the Jewish people almost disappear?
100%,
if not more.
What I'm trying to correlate, his words were, it will be a 12-minute war. That would have to be a nuclear war.
That's what I'm saying. The nuclear war was already, no?
The Holocaust?
In the Second World War.
Against Japan,
That's what I'm saying. Sorry?
Against Japan, but it wasn't 12 minutes.
Yes.
It was a 5.5.
I don't know how long does it take. How long did it took, you know? Maybe it took 3 seconds from the time that the bomb fell on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That's what ended the war.
It ended the
war.
war.
They couldn't give any more power to the Nazis regime.
The Nazis were finished already, Rob. This was against Japan. So, but the Japan got into the war in 1941. The bombs in Hiroshima were mid-1945. If the Vilna Gaon's words were, the war will take a total of 12 minutes, not a 5-year war that finishes in 12 minutes. That's what I'm asking.
Oh, no. I'm talking about the final, when America sent the Enola Gay to bomb up Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that was the final. How long did it took?
I understand that, but that's not what the Vilna Gaon are. I guess I don't understand. The Vilna Gaon wasn't.
Neither do I. I can't answer that question. I'm just trying to give some ideas. That's number one. But that was the translation of the interpretation of the Gaon Mivilna. Not necessary that it should be like this. You follow? There's all different commentaries today. And I brought the commentary of the Malbim. That's according to him. If we look today what's happening in the world, and I leave it to each one judgment because I'm not a prophet. Look, we already seeing 4 plagues that was amongst the 10 plagues. We see what's happening in the world, that the isolation that we are, and especially to the Jewish people, that they're not allowed to leave their house before they bring in the korban of Pesach, the sacrifice of Pesach. And not only that, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told us specifically, do not leave your house. Isn't that maybe the beginning? I'm just suggesting, I leave it to each one of you to decide that the beginning of the redemption. So each one will say, what should we do? I'm saying, we have to work on our deeds, more Torah, study more Torah, doing more mitzvot, doing more kindness. And one more mitzvah that's not less important is the unity amongst us. The unity amongst us without any more faribol. And that's what destroyed us. Destroyed the Jewish people is the faribol. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us maybe, he put us in isolation to try to live together, to try to be together, to understand each other, and not only to understand each other, that we're going to be together in those difficult times, and maybe that's what's going to unite us. And that's maybe what HaKadosh Baruch Hu asks from us. Any question beside that?
Very good. Sure.
Okay, guys. I would like to wish all of you, if we're not going to speak, Hag Kasher V'Sameach, and maybe during the Chol HaMoed we'll do more shi'ur, we'll speak about, but maybe by then the prophecy of the prophet Micha will come through, and then we're all going to be redeemed. And then we're going to listen to shi'urim, you know from who? From Moshe Rabbeinu. We're all going to listen to Moshe Rabbeinu. So please God, we'll take ourselves together and we'll daven strong. We'll learn Torah more. If you have few minutes more, say more capital of Tehillim. Try not to have faribol, to work on our deeds. And please God, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will redeem us this Pesach. Amen. Ken Yehi Ratzon.
Amen.
Amen.
Everyone, thank you very much for joining.
Very scary stuff. How is that possible?